final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Dr. LMadu, and he has given us some information over the first two segments dealing with mining companies and environmental pollution in Africa. And it appears from what he has said is that the only entity that tends to suffer in this kind of situation are the people. Well, Dr. LMadu, let's continue to talk about some of the problems that, that all of this pollution is having on the population itself.
Yeah, and like I was saying before, they come in, they find oil here, they pitch their tent and start mining without due consideration to the environment. Like I was saying, in this country, large areas of Alaska are off limits for drilling, you know, because people say, no, you can't drill there because a lot of important birds and animals and all this are there. Why? In Africa, no, they won't think like that. Those oil companies would demolish houses without...
Wherever they find oil, they drill.
Find oil, they drill, and the people who own the land and who own the houses are not paid adequately. Now, they will say, oh yeah, we pay compensation. But there's a big difference legally between paying compensation and paying adequate compensation. Yeah, if my house is worth $1 million and you demolish it and pay me $50,000, it's not adequate compensation. Yes, and when the people speak up, oh, they send soldiers to drive them away or get arrested, or you might even be killed. Okay? So it's not regulated the way it's regulated here. And that's what most people in Africa want to see. The way you drill in the United States, the way you drill in Western Europe, that's the way we want you to drill in Africa. You respect the environment and respect the people's land. You know, pay adequate compensation, clean the oil when you spill, not leave it the way it is. Now, to the credit of some of the mining companies, at times they get the local companies to clean, you know, their mess. But those local companies will not clean anything. They get paid, but they leave without cleaning. And the government will not do anything because most of the time they're in cahoots with the government officials or the government itself in order to get some kickbacks. That's a big problem. Most of the old, you know, used computers and all this are dumped in Africa. The residues of oil are dumped in Africa. A few years ago, in 2006, a company called Trafigura, which says is the largest privately owned oil, you know, entity in the world, dumped thousands and thousands of tons of toxic materials in the Ivory Coast, you know, on the shores of Abidjan. Eventually, thousands of people started getting ill, you know, from diseases they don't know about.
Never had before.
Never had
all of a sudden everybody's got the same disease.
All of a sudden everybody's getting sick. The people started complaining, the company shut its ear, and eventually it got sued and all that, and they agreed to pay compensation to over 31,000 people who got sick because of it. Why did they allow them to dump it there? No, because some government officials turned their eyes elsewhere, got their own money in their pocket, and let them dump and kill their people. Okay? In Zambia, even now, in Kabwe, a place they call Kabwe, people are getting sick because the water they are using to take a bath, the water they are drinking is contaminated by lead and copper. Okay? And nothing's done about it. Now the Chinese who are coming into Africa, that's another problem. Everybody's saying, oh, Chinese are in Africa now, they're doing so well here and there. They happen to be the worst polluters now in Africa. A lot of places where they are mining and all this, Africans are treated like dogs, okay? Worse than other you know, countries who have come to Africa to do business. Yeah, they don't care about the environment, they dump things anywhere and abuse their employers. Now, having said that, what do we expect from the African governments? People expect them to hold these companies, these mining companies, accountable for their actions, okay? These are their people. But what has been obtaining in the past 50 to 60 years is that these companies are what? Laws unto themselves. At times, these companies really control the government of those countries.
The influence of money and wealth.
Exactly. Yeah, sometimes these companies really run the countries indirectly, because even from the president on down has been paid off, you know, by the huge sums of money that accrues from mining, you know, particularly, you know, with oil. So they turn their face somewhere else while these, you know, companies are busy looting. Take, for example, we have just mentioned Bayelsa State in Nigeria, or Rivers State in Nigeria. In fact, their gross, you know, domestic product, or their monthly income really, is higher than almost half of the other African countries. This is just few states in where the oil comes from. But what do those governments do with the money? Nothing but
put it in their pockets and arrears. There's nothing for the people.
Exactly. Put it in their pockets and then disappear. One of the former governors now named LMadu3. Yeah, he was arrested in London where he had, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank. He ran away. And that one called James Ibori, he was the governor of oil-rich, you know, Delta State. He's still in London now in jail for stealing, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars, you know, for himself.
There was no end to their greed. Is that what, I mean, there's no appropriate kind of stealing that they do. They want it all. Is that
exactly. Yeah, nothing. It's just not take $1 and leave the rest for the people. No, it's clean everything and let everybody else be poor, and you are the only king in there. That's part of the problem. And even people in Africa and Nigeria understand that if the politicians are not in cahoot with these mining companies, they cannot get away with what they are doing, you see. So whenever they come in and they're in cahoot with the government, then they're empowered to keep, you know, polluting and not being accountable, you know. I mentioned Patrice Lumumba when we started here. That's part of why he died, because the Union Minière de Katanga, the northern mineral company of Northern Katanga from Belgium, owned the rights to the copper mines in Katanga, which is called Shaba now. And obviously, Lumumba was going to nationalize, you know, the copper mines and all that. So they knew that, and the only way to deal with it is to get rid of him early, so that they could keep, you know, the right to mine and pollute and do whatever they want.
So outright assassination and killing anybody who might talk about reform or anything is one of the things that generally happen to any kind of there are no reformers in reference to some of these issues. Is that what we're saying?
That's correct, because a lot of these oil companies and mining companies have a lot of money to buy off some of the greedy politicians who do not anyway have the interests of their people at heart. You know, some things that they could not do in this country or any other part of the world, where you have to account to the people for whatever you do.
Well, Dr. Madu, last minute we have here. Is there a solution to this? It seems that there's no solution to this kind of issue, is there?
Well, I think the solution is that the governments in Western Europe or in the United States here, you know, have to prevail on these oil companies, you know, that do business in Africa. Say, hey, if you don't maintain the standards over there that you do here, then we have to sanction, you know, those companies. Like Chevron is from the U.S., you know, and all the rest. We have to put some sanctions on you until, you know, you start acting proper over there as far as environmental controls are concerned.
Well, that seems to be such a long shot, and so many people would suffer between now and then that it's a very, very discouraging kind of situation. And I think that oftentimes we talk about Africa really coming back from some real problems, but there's still some real problems in Africa. Is that right?
Absolutely. And insofar as environmental degradation and pollution is concerned.
Very good. And of course, Dr. Wu, we thank you for that. And let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.